here's something I will say. If you can communicate with somebody or a stranger that you meet and you can walk into a room and strike up a conversation, it's like a superpower. It's going to put you so far ahead of most people that are awkward and feel insecure when they go into a room.
So my conversational partner today, Aaron Marino, as many people will know you, Alpha M. I think you've accumulated over 6 million subscribers on YouTube now, covering topics, lifestyle, grooming, fitness. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Great to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk.
It's a pleasure, man. So the reason I go on the show is obviously, as I was growing up, especially through university, I struggled with confidence a lot. That was like my big thing. I had zero confidence, and I turned to your channel a lot to look at these topics and try and grow as a person in that regard. And so to me, I'll always remember your channel and view your channel as something that's helped a lot of, you know, young men with confidence issues. From your end of the perspective, do you think that we are facing a confidence crisis in the world today, especially in young people? What?
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah, it's got to be, right? I mean, you look at social media, and I think that that's really done a number on us as a culture. Also, hang on, I'm turning this around so I sound better. That's better, right? I sound better now. Okay. You know, I really do. I feel like, you know, I am so thankful, honestly, that I'm older and that I didn't grow up with social media. I mean, growing up, you know, being a teenager, being a young adult, it's hard enough, right? You've got a lot of pressures, you know, just from, you know, your peers and the pressures that you place on yourself. Now, like multiply that by a million with social media and Instagram and all of these fantastic, fabulous people doing amazing things all the time. You know, it's overwhelming, honestly. It's overwhelming for me. And I'm, you know, a 44-year-old guy. Or am I 44, 45? I think I'm 45, actually. And so, yeah, I can't imagine the pressure that, you know, young people feel today, and having it ever present with, you know, social media. Everybody has, you know, something in their pocket that's going to remind them what they should or they shouldn't be doing. And you know, it's overwhelming. And so I would imagine it would be overwhelming. And so I think we are definitely facing a crisis, or we will soon, because people, you know, it's not reality. And that's the thing. It's not reality. You know, seeing all these, you know, people online that are making all this money through just, you know, some platform that they lucked into, and you know, they figured out a mechanism to make money. It's not reality. It's hard to make money. It's hard to be successful. It's hard to be happy. And I think that, you know, when we chase these ideals or chase these ideas of what we think are, you know, what we should be, you know, doing or chasing, it's definitely going to impact a lot of men, a lot of women, a lot of people in general, in terms of their confidence.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the big ones was, obviously I was big into the sort of fitness YouTube space when I was a teenager. I was watching guys like Steve Cook, Christian Guzman, these guys who were in just phenomenal shape all year round. And I remember, obviously, that was the standard in my head of where I wanted to be. And then I sort of constructed this narrative where, you know, if I didn't look like that, then that wasn't good enough. And also there's very little transparency in that industry about how they attain the physique they attain. And so for me, looking in quite naive, I remember thinking, right, I'm following all their workouts, I'm eating all their food, and I'm like, I must be the problem. It just must be something wrong with me. And that sort of bled into my confidence. And I imagine for kids today, like we said about these, you know, guys that are so successful, they look at someone like a Logan Paul on YouTube that does just tremendous numbers, and you know, they start a YouTube channel themselves and they're getting 10, 20 views a video, and all of a sudden they compare themselves and they think, man, I'm the problem. So what narratives do you think are probably quite damaging to confidence?
In terms of you know,
Social media.
you know, I think, yeah, I think the fitness one is a big one, right? You know, you kind of nailed it. You know, you look at all these guys that are posting pictures on Instagram, and they all look amazing. You know, these are like, you know, they don't, you fail to realize that there's a lot of nuance that goes into looking that good. Not to mention, a lot of these guys are taking, supplements, quote unquote, supplements that are not necessarily what you can find at your local, supplement store. It's not reality. And then that's also something where, that's not a healthy way to live. And that's something I used to be in the fitness world pretty heavily as well. I competed as a natural bodybuilder. And what you don't realize is, when you look the best that you possibly can, you feel the worst. It's not something that is sustainable. Also, lighting with filters. I mean, there's a lot of things that are making these young guys think, hey, wait a second, I started working out 6 months ago. Why don't I look like that? When the truth is, it just takes time and just consistency with that. The other thing that I think is probably like the hustle culture, right? You've got people like Gary Vee and all these, successful entrepreneurs and Grant Cardones and all these, make money and this is how you do, like that to me is super toxic. Not that the message that I think Gary Vee is just a different animal, but when you look at him and all he's doing and what he does, if you try to compare yourself to that, it's going to make you feel like you're a failure, right? Because nobody can live up to that amount of work or effort or, fabulousness. And so, I think that that's also super damaging. I think that you've just got to figure out what makes you happy and sort of figure out, if you can figure out what makes you happy and then figure out a way to do that routinely and regularly. I mean, that's really what it's about. But trying to live up to the standard that we see is impossible and an exercise in futility.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, some of the names you mentioned there, because that's something I've been reflecting on a lot lately. I've been a fan of the personal development space, ever since I was about 15, and I've read all the big books. I followed all the gurus. I've been tempted into a few courses in my time. But there's so much, like you said, there's misinformation and a naivety. I mean, when you look at someone like a Grant Cardone or a Dan Locke who post all their private jets and all these extravagant things, and it makes you think, oh man, I want to hustle, I want to be like Grant Cardone. And then you're following them, and then all of a sudden they're
but the truth is, like Grant Cardone, here's the thing, Grant Cardone actually has done some stuff. Other people like the Dan Locks of the world have done nothing other than convince people that they have the ticket, and it's this formula. I recently saw a documentary on Netflix talking all about money and why people fall into Ponzi schemes and all of these different, sort of scenarios. And the thing that they actually talked about was these people, that are now teaching you how to make money. That's kind of like the newest sort of, almost like trick, right? Yeah. Like that's like what, a lot of people, it's all about buy this course, come to the seminar, buy this upset. And all these people have really done is figure out the formula to convince people that they are successful, when the truth is all they're really successful at or have done is convince you that they're successful and that you should buy their programs.
For sure, man. I think with Dan Locke, especially, when we started this podcast, we were supposed to have Dan Locke on the show, and there was a bit of a delay sorting that out. And then I started watching these videos on YouTube of these people giving their experiences who followed Dan Locke. And these people were tens of thousands of dollars in debt because they signed up to the course, they complete the course. All of a sudden, well, to get the most out of the course, you need to buy the VIP course. They do the VIP course. To get the most out of the VIP course, you need to fly out to the seminar. You need to upgrade to, and it's just and then, man, there's so much information, misinformation, and it's quite a scary reality when you think about the kids that get drawn into these things. Their heart's in the right place, their intentions are in the right place. There's just so much out there on the internet. It's hard to know what's real.
The truth is there is no easy way, right? And the other reality is that all the stuff that these gurus are selling and talking about in the seminar, it's out there. All this information is out there for free. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars in order to learn this tip and trick. It's all out there. I mean, nothing they're saying is reinventing the wheel. And if you're going to be successful, it just takes a lot of hard work, and it takes you sort of nose down grindstone, and eventually, you'll stumble upon things that work and you adjust and change, but it just takes time. And I think really the idea and the sale for a lot of these, online gurus is just, hey, this is an easier way. I figured out a formula, follow this formula, and you are going to be successful. And the formula, unfortunately, is something that it just takes time, energy, and you putting your work in.
Yeah, that's why I do really admire your work in that sense, that I think you have this genuine connection with your audience in which they know they're not being exploited. You're not trying to get anything out of them. You provide them with value. Obviously, they provide you with a view on the video, for example.
Yeah, I mean,
So
that being said, I mean, I do sell products, right? I sell
sure,
grooming products, I sell skincare products, I promote things.
so those are
So
things you
it's not,
believe in.
yeah, it's all things that I believe
Yeah.
in. And so it's, if you want it, great. If you don't want it, no big deal. Like that's what I try to do. I never promote a product that I don't believe in. But you know, I try to be as authentic and I try to add as much value as possible. I decided a long time ago that I would never promote something that I didn't believe in, that I didn't love. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to love or believe in everything that I talk about, but at least I can go to bed knowing that I didn't try to swindle anybody out of their hard-earned money just because, it makes me more money. So
Love that, man. So what was originally your mission with Alpha M? What problem in the world were you trying to solve? What was the mission?
So when I started Alpha M, the YouTube channel, it strictly was just an outlet. I mean, I started that back in 2008. So this was before nobody made money on YouTube. It wasn't even like, you didn't think about this. Now, it's different, right? Everybody knows that if you have an audience, you can potentially make, good money. And so when I started, I started an image consulting firm back in 2006. And it was, you know what, let me start just making videos. I had heard about this YouTube thing. I had never really been on it. I was very untech savvy. And I went and I was like, you know what, there's nobody really talking about style in an everyday guy kind of way. And so when I started it, I said, you know what, let me just start talking about some of the things that I'm interested in. I've always been interested in style and grooming, and it started with style. And then the first sort of question that got asked to me after I posted my first video of, hi, I'm Aaron Marino from Alpha M Image Consulting. It was a gentleman asking, hey, I'm a bigger guy, what should I wear? And it was that moment that I was like, oh my gosh, like they're actually somebody that's interested in what I have to say. And that's all it took. I was hooked from that moment. And I found my home. I found my voice. I think for the majority of my life, the thing that I was really searching for was just to feel valued and to feel like I was making a difference. And so that kind of, it when that happened, when somebody asked me a question and I did a video, that was literally all it took. And the rest, as they say, is history.
So here's something that makes me feel that genuine connection to your channel. So obviously in the UK where I'm from, there's a massive TV show. Everyone loves this, called Dragon's Den. You were on the American version called Shark Tank. Obviously you were pitching a product and in the end, the sharks wanted to invest in you and Alpha M, but you didn't let that happen. So why did that mean so much to you?
So yeah, I was on Shark Tank twice. I was on season 4 where I was pitching the Alpha M style system. I came up with this DVD series that helped guys, like pick out outfits, and it was a good idea. The execution was wrong, and it was DVD. If it was an app or something like that, it would have been really successful. I was charging like $297 because I was I was trying to create an information product, and information products back then were, that was kind of like the thing. 297, not 300, that 97. Like, and so I was trying to do that. I had no business doing information products. And that's the thing about me. I don't like info products for me personally to sell. I know they're successful. I know that, there are a lot of people that have great info products, but for me, it was just not something I was interested in. And so I got rejected. They didn't want to do it, but I went home and I was bummed out. I didn't get any. I literally sold one style system the night that Shark Tank aired, and I was devastated. I'm like, wait a second, hold on. This idea is great. What are you talking about? Apparently the market let me know that it is not a great idea. And so, And so it's funny. I used to have a conference, a men's lifestyle conference, and a guy came up to me and said, "You know how you've talked about that first night of Shark Tank, you sold one style system?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "You're looking at the guy who bought it." I'm like, "No way." I'm like, "You deserve like a medal or something." And so I went on again. I started another company, a grooming company called Pete and Pedro, where I sell hair product. And so I went back, and I was like, "All right, this is it." And so the interesting thing about that, I was positive that they were going to be interested in this business. At the time, I think I was doing like 50 or $60,000 a month. I mean, it's a great business. Profit margins were great. You know, the revenue was going up like great. I mean, it was a great business.
Yeah.
And I know that any other business that went on there and pitched that, they would have gotten an investment. But what happened was they realized that the only reason why that business was a great business was because I was doing what I was doing on YouTube and had this audience. And so they're like, "Hey, you know, it could be hair product, it could be something else, but it's your ability to sort of pitch and drive a message and connect with people. And so we want to invest in you." And I was like, "Oh man, okay." So number one, I was really flattered. I was like, "That's like the nicest thing anybody's ever said, right?" And so on the show, I took a deal with Barbara. But then as soon as I got done, I'm like, I was on the plane home, and I'm like, I cannot sell part of my Alpha M, sort of brand to somebody, because when I do that, I completely lose the ability to be like authentic. I felt anyway, because at that point, somebody else's money is on the line. So if I get a deal with, a product that I don't like, and I don't, and I don't believe in it, somebody else might be, no, wait, you're making a lot of money off of that. And so I felt like it was best that I said, "You know what, thanks, but no thanks." And so as soon as I got home that Monday, I sent an email and just said, "Hey, I appreciate the offer, but I'm gonna go at it myself. But thank you."
Wow. So what were there any other lessons that or things that you value that you've taken away from that whole Shark Tank experience?
That experience, the whole Shark Tank experience, is amazing. If you're an entrepreneur, like, you should be watching Shark Tank, like every night, watch an episode. Because the thing that was so amazing about that experience for me is that I got to hang out like with a bunch of really smart entrepreneurs. The way that it works, I think they film like in two different like blocks. And so they flew me out to California along with these other entrepreneurs, and they put us up at a hotel. And so in this whole hotel, it's like nothing but like entrepreneurs. And so you start meeting and talking to all these really smart people. And that was the thing that was so sort of inspiring for me. I felt like when I went out the first time, I'm like, talking to people that like invented like, a robot that, walks your dog for you. And they're like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "I teach people how to dress." It was like, it was kind of like a definite reality check. But yeah, so that was the thing that was really so inspiring, was just realizing that there's so many smart people. And if you are an entrepreneur, you should watch that show, because the sharks, they ask some really great questions. And, the stuff that they're saying, the questions they're bringing up are things that you need to think about. When you are an entrepreneur, the thing that I've learned is that, you need to have really good friends that aren't afraid to hurt your feelings, because too often you'll see somebody, like, even just, I'll use Shark Tank as an example because we're talking about it. You'll see something and you'll be like, "How did that ever become a thing? Why did nobody tell them that was a horrible idea?" Right? It's because nobody wants to hurt their feelings. But, it's really about surrounding yourself with people that will be true and honest with you. And if something is a piece of shit, don't try to, act like it isn't. Let them know, I'm not feeling this. And so, Shark Tank is a great resource for entrepreneurs, just to be inspired and hear some of the realities of, the questions they ask are these are smart people. They really know what they're talking about. And so you got to listen to them. And if they're saying something, now sometimes they're wrong, of course, or they don't see the vision, but most of the time they're dead on and accurate. Smart, successful people are smart and successful, and it doesn't really matter really what industry. They could bring value to the industry or the product or the thing that you're trying to do.
So I've told this story before, but I'd love to sort of make this relevant to you. So I started this podcast 2.5 years ago, but originally I wanted to start it probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And I just started making a little bit of content, putting it out there. And I was in university at the time. And I remember one day I tried to keep it private, keep it to myself. I remember one day I woke up and my housemates found the video and just ripped into me. I just felt embarrassed. Obviously, there was no one watching at the time. It had like 2 views on it, and I was just the butt of all the jokes. And I backed down. I put the video on private. I stopped. I didn't make any more. And it wasn't until years later where I thought I dropped that fear. But so for you, especially, you started out when YouTube really wasn't a thing. No one really knew about it. Did you have any reaction from peers, friends, family, and what was that like? And
Oh
did you
yeah.
ever doubt it?
Oh yeah. Well. So it's funny story because you know, my wife would always like, so when I started making YouTube videos, when I'd go to like a party or an event or see like friends, they'd be like, oh, what do you do? And I'd be like, oh, I make videos. And my wife was like, don't say that. You sound like you're, you know, doing porn or something. And I'm like, okay. And so this was long before YouTube was like a cool thing. And people were like, oh, you're a YouTuber? Like, let's talk about that. That sounds really cool. And it was almost like internet dating. When internet dating first started, nobody really wanted to admit that they were internet dating or that they met online. Right now it's like, yeah, where do you meet? Well, where else would you meet other than online? And another funny story was I was doing I would film videos in a spare bedroom, and so I had my tripod and a video camera set up, and my wife was interviewing a cleaning woman who didn't speak English very well. And so she's showing her around the house, and she didn't know that my camera was set up in there. And so she opens the door, and this woman she said the look on her face when she saw this camera pointing on this bed was like, you know, she was like, what? It was pretty funny. My wife was super pissed about that. But now you know, people definitely, you know, would be like, you do what? And then, you know, once it became kind of like a bigger thing, people were like, hey, you know, hey, you helped me tie a bow tie, or hey, I learned to match socks, you know, watching your videos and stuff like that. And so it's been an evolution. But yeah, in the early days, it was challenging. The other thing that happened the early days, I didn't know what my voice was supposed to be. And this is kind of like a lesson out to the audience to just be you and do you, as they say. When I started, it was me, you know, standing there talking about stuff, and then I would look and I'd see other YouTubers that were getting a lot of views and that were successful, and I thought that you had to be crude and obnoxious and rude and outlandish, and so I started to go that route, and it ended up being that I was ashamed almost of the content that I was putting out. I was saying things that were absolutely like totally shitty, and I've taken those videos down. But the thing that really kind of made me, you know, continue and when I really started to see the success for me personally was when I kind of just allowed people to see, you know, the real me and be vulnerable and authentic and just not try to be something I wasn't. When that happened, then, you know, everything started to kind of fit and fall into place. And I started to feel better about the content. I was getting more, you know, views and things kind of just not took off. Things have never taken off for my channel. It's always been like a slow, you know, grind. It took me like 9 years to get 1 million views or 1 million subscribers. I mean, literally 9 years, you know. So in the first 6 years, I didn't get paid anything for these videos. Like I didn't have I didn't have sponsors. I think back then you had to actually apply to be a YouTube partner, and you needed to have like 10,000 subscribers before you could actually even make money on videos or monetize them. And so it was a different world. And so I didn't know what I didn't know. And it was just the pure aspect of loving the fact that I had a voice and I could share my perspective, and people were actually valuing it. That kept me going and ultimately I think made me successful.
So if there's people watching or listening right now and they're thinking, oh, Aaron, Lewis, I've got a dream, I've got a goal like this, I know what I want to do. I'm just scared of what people are going to say. I'm scared of what people are going to think. They're going to laugh at me. What would you say to those people?
I'd say they probably will. No, I'm kidding. No, they may. And you know what? You've got to decide whether or not, you know, you've got one shot at this life. You know, that's kind of what I've come to realize, you know, 45 years, you got one shot. And I would rather try and fail and have people like, and the other reality is that people don't care as much about you and your success as you think they do. People don't care. They're so busy with their life. They're so busy with their own, priorities, trying to figure their own happiness out, that, it's not as big of a deal as you think it is. And for me, the fear of regret is much stronger than the fear of failure. Once you fail, it gets easier. And I think you've just got to get that first like failure out of the way. You had your friends laugh at you when you started, and you shut it down, and that was kind of like a failure, right? Because you gave up, you gave into that pressure, and your own little like internal voice that was saying you're not good enough, this is stupid, don't do this. And think about where you would be now if you had kept going. And just like, it's scary. And that's the other thing, like, it's scary to think about, okay, when you first started thinking about, and I always correlated to like fitness, right? If the first time you thought about getting in better shape, if you would have just started then, where would you be now? As opposed to waiting, 6 months and 5 New Year's resolutions, and just like, it's about action. It's about try it. If it doesn't work, okay, at least you took it off the table. But yeah, just get out there and give it a shot. I mean, what literally do you have to lose other than, you have nothing to lose.
We talked a lot about confidence at the top of the show. I just wonder what sort of advice or tips you would give for people lacking in confidence, where the areas in their life they can take a look at. Is it a case of maybe looking internally rather than externally? Are there external factors you think they should look at? Where would you originally point people to if they came to you and said, I'm low in confidence?
The gym. Fitness is the thing that I found at 12 years old. That is the reason why I feel I am as well-adjusted, confident, and happy, and well-grounded as I am. I mean, fitness changed my life. And, the simple act of going in, working out, challenging your body, it makes you feel better about yourself. It just does. And so I would say that is the number one place that somebody should start taking an active role in your physical health. And that could be, it could be going to the gym. It could be going for runs. It could be doing push-ups at home. It could be just watching what you eat and not doing the self-destructive things. We know when we're making right decisions, and we know when we're making bad decisions. And so by just starting to make better decisions, it's amazing how that will actually impact your confidence. Because, when we go down the rabbit hole of bad decision after bad decision, whether or not we know we shouldn't go out drinking 7 nights a week or 5 nights a week, and we know that we probably shouldn't get drunk, and we know we probably should eat a little bit better, and we know that we should probably spend more time studying or going to the gym. You keep doing those things that you shouldn't be doing, it affects your confidence, it affects your self-esteem. And so when you just start making some better decisions, that does the opposite. It actually starts boosting your internal, kind of confidence and that self-esteem. And over time, it'll just naturally, kind of like a rising tide, it'll just make you feel better about yourself. And, when you feel good about yourself, anything is possible. It affects every aspect of your life. You're a better partner. You're a better employee. You're a better entrepreneur. You're just better when you feel good about yourself. And like I said, that is the reason why I started my channel, is just to, hopefully help a few guys just feel better about themselves and more confident. Self-esteem is one of those big aspects of confidence that I think you really need to focus on. Helping other people is another area that you can go to actually, boost your confidence and your happiness, just helping people, whether or not it's opening the door for somebody, or, just going and volunteering, or just helping somebody that might not even thank you. I mean, that feels really good, and it definitely helps your self-esteem.
So this is not something I'm surprised by, but just from listening to you talk now for the last half an hour, it's really made me think and admire what an effective communicator you are. And that's no surprise to me. You've been in this space a long time. You've talked to a camera more hours than anyone will probably ever do in their life. But I just wonder, maybe it wasn't always that way. So from the start of your journey to now, is there anything you've done? Is there anything you've studied, looked at? What steps have you taken along the way to try and become a more effective communicator?
It is just about practice. I mean, if you think about it, I started posting videos, back in 2008. And, prior to that, I was a personal trainer. And so prior to that, I was in high school, and I was a, insecure little kid who really just wanted to be liked. And so I took an active role in, just being friendly and engaging with people from a young age, just because I didn't want to be the new kid in all these different schools that I was moving to. And so for me, it's just about practice. I am not great at thinking like quickly on my feet or delivering a message. It's something that I've just gotten better at because of the practice. It's reps, right? You're a great golfer, you're a great soccer player, you're a great free throw shooter, a basketball, like whatever it is. It just is somebody who puts in the time and the energy. And I've put in time and energy for the past, 14 years or however long it's been. And so that's really what it is. And also visualization. Shark Tank, tie it back to Shark Tank. Shark Tank was one of those situations where I was super nervous going into that, right? Because what you don't realize is, or maybe some people do, but there's no stop, right? Once you get in that Shark Tank, you just pitch. And I always would amaze me that people could get their pitch out and not screw up and not stammer. And I mean, in that environment where the pressure's on, there's, just this intense anxiety. It always amazed me that people could get it out there. What I realized is that by the time I went into Shark Tank, I had practiced that pitch probably 2,000 times. And I visualized, I put myself in that situation. And so I would get almost like physically nervous when I would even just practice, because I was visualizing what it would be like to be there and delivering that pitch. So by the time you walk in and actually do it, it's the 2001st time that you're doing it. And so you just do it, you figure it out. And so visualization is not another tool that I've used for different scenarios and things over the years that has been an incredible tool. And the more realistic and the more accurate you can be in terms of sort of the environment or putting yourself in a mindset that you're going to be in when you're in that situation or occasion, it's amazing at how much better you become. And when you actually are there, how much easier it is, even though you're still nervous, even though like public speaking is like the biggest like fear that people have, you get better. And the more you practice, the better at it you're going to get.
So for anyone who's watched your videos, they'll know that you have charisma and abundance. And for me, when I was younger, that was something I really struggled with. I always thought I was a very boring person. I had very little charisma. And one of the big things that helped me was I read a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. That did a lot for me in terms of, feeling like I was more interesting, feeling like I had something to offer. Are there any sort of tips or advice or anything that has helped you in terms of your charisma and being more interesting?
I don't, not really anything in particular that I can think of. Just being curious. The thing that I love is learning about people. And so asking questions and really kind of being engaged and interested in people is something that I've always kind of done. I love asking questions. I feel like everybody is interesting. I feel like everybody has a story. And so just being curious and asking questions, as little kids, right? What do little kids ask? Well, why? Well, why? Well, why? It's like, shut up, kid, right? And so just continuing to have that curiosity and be okay and just asking questions and being curious. That's something that's helped me. And the more you learn, the more you engage with people, the better at communicating you get, the better people skills. And here's something I will say, if you can communicate with somebody or a stranger that you meet and you can walk into a room and strike up a conversation, it's like a superpower. It's going to put you so far ahead of most people that are awkward and feel insecure when they go into a room or an event or talk to a girl or a guy or whatever you're into. The more you practice, the more you do it. And here's a little something that I started doing that I tell people, like, okay, if you want to start practicing engaging and just asking people questions, practice on people that don't matter. And what I mean by don't matter, some people are like, wait a second, everybody matters. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is people that you don't need to impress. You don't need to have them buy what you're selling, or you're not trying to date them. People like cashiers, strangers that you meet on the subway, or, whatever it is. just engaging and asking somebody, hey, how's your day going? And striking up a conversation and asking and practicing on people that you don't have a need in order, you don't have to impress them. It makes the times that you do meet somebody or need to impress somebody a lot easier to start that process. Plus, it just makes you feel good, asking people about their day or how they're doing, or are they doing anything fun this weekend, or what's their favorite Netflix show that they're watching. People like to be asked questions, or you could also just give people compliments. That's another thing that I think really will help you in terms of your self-esteem and your people skills, is giving somebody a compliment that you don't know, whether or not it's their shoes or their shirt or whatever it is. People love getting compliments, and it feels good to get them. And when you give somebody a compliment, it literally is impossible for somebody not to like you, right? Somebody gives you a compliment, even if they're a jerk, you're like, well, they're not that bad, right? And so those are a few little tools and tricks that I would like to just share with your audience that I use.
It's interesting because I mentioned that book there by Dale Carnegie, and your answer basically reflected it perfectly, because my number one takeaway from that book was he said to be more focused on being interested rather than being interesting. And in turn, that's going to come back to you. So you basically reassured my point there.
And I've never read that book. Dale's a smart guy.
You mentioned earlier, man, that you're into your 40s now, but this isn't me crushing on you. I can see you across the screen. Good skin, solid hairline, great teeth, great smile.
Yeah,
and
man.
Some of the videos on your channel are all revolved around these aesthetics, these hacks. What are some of your favorite aesthetic hacks?
Skincare is something that I'm incredibly passionate about, so much so that I started a business revolving around it. I wish I would have started taking better care of my skin when I was younger, in my teens. I waited until my wife was like, yeah, I can see some wrinkles around your eyes. It's like, what? The earlier you start, the better the better you're going to look, moving forward. The other thing is your diet and hydration is so incredibly important. We focus a lot on, using the right hair product, and it's all about what you consume. I joke that I'll tell you what you're eating if you take your shirt off. I know what you're eating. Like, if I see your skin, like, you can tell. It makes a huge difference. And the simple act of staying hydrated is something that not only is going to affect your weight, your skin, it affects everything and how you function, your brain functions. And so staying hydrated is also another something that people can do that's easy technically, but a lot of people neglect it. They drink a lot of caffeine that actually dehydrates you, but you got to replace what you're losing by making sure you're drinking, somewhere around a gallon of water a day.
So, and there we are. It's right on brand.
As I take a drink.
I love it. So I have a few questions left. They're more of our quickfire questions that we ask every guest that comes on the show, so they're non-specific. I'm not sure if you're much of a reader, but obviously I referenced the book there. Are there any books you've read in your life that have had an impact on you?
This is something that I used to lie about. I will just tell you, I don't read. I can read, I just don't read books.
Okay.
I used to lie because that was one of the things, right? In the self-help improvement
For sure.
internet world, everybody's like, oh, it's this book, it's this book, it's this book. And I went to a school when I was in kindergarten that was like a sort of like a very progressive school, and they taught something called ITA, which is a form of phonics. And so they teach you how to spell based on how words sounded. And then in first grade, they switch you over to regular, the way that things are actually supposed to be spelled. And well, for 99.999% of the kids, everything works out well. Well, for me, it didn't. Like, whatever they taught me in kindergarten, I locked into. And so reading and grammar and spelling has always been a very big like insecurity for me. Okay. And so I never found the love of reading. Some books that I love that I've read or that I've listened to in terms of audiobooks or TED Talks is Simon Sinek, Start With Why. I love that. I heard that, and I actually saw his TED Talk, and that rocked my world. And it really, sort of exemplified, I felt, why, I do what I do. And I love that. I love Simon. I think he's a great speaker, great motivational person. Another book that I've listened to that I like is what is it? The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F.
Mark Manson.
And the reason is because you really, the thing, excuse me, the thing and the takeaway from that book that I really kind of resonated with is that I think that we assume, especially in the world of social media, that if everything was perfect, then life would be good. When the truth is, it's the struggles, it's the trials and tribulations that actually give purpose and meaning to your life. And that's what, helps you in terms of happiness. And the other aspect is that, we only have a limited capacity of things to care about. And you've really got to focus on the things that matter, as opposed to the things that really are inconsequential to your life and you living a happy and fulfilled existence.
Two great recommendations in a really refreshing answer. I love that you didn't lie about it. And I'm just going to say it because I think everyone needs to hear it. Audiobooks still count as reading as far as I'm concerned. I hate this sort of bravado where people think if you didn't physically read the book, then it somehow doesn't count. There's just too much bravado in that, man. So you have read the books. I love it. The next question.
I agree with you too.
The next question I have for you, the penultimate question. So if we were in a scenario now in which every person in the planet was tuned into the same frequency and you were given an opportunity to broadcast one little message or one little lesson that you think every person on the planet could benefit from hearing, what would Aaron Marino's message to the world be?
Just take care of each other. That's it. I mean, it's sort of cliche, but I feel like we get so bogged down in our differences, and it really is it's silly. We all just need to sort of step back and realize that we're all humans, and it doesn't matter. Like if somebody wants to identify as a turnip, like who cares? Like it doesn't affect your life. Like we're all humans and we're all just trying to do the best job we can. And I think if you can figure out what makes you happy, that's ultimately the biggest, thing that you've got to figure out in this lifetime. I think we spend way too much time focused on the differences and not enough on the things that make us similar. And we just need to love each other and do the best job we can. It's tough. Life's hard, right? And so it doesn't need to be exacerbated by just being pissed off at things that you can't change or that really doesn't matter or affect you. Somebody wants to be gay or straight, like it affects me zero. And so, all these political fights that people have on Facebook and not liking somebody because they have a different view. It's just, it's silly. And, it's not going to ultimately make you happy or I don't know. That's kind of my message, was just be good to each other and realize that, it's the differences that make us special, and it's okay to not necessarily agree with somebody. It doesn't mean you have to hate them.
It's a beautiful, beautiful answer, man. The final question I have for you, and this could be anything. It can be as cliche as you want. It can be whatever. It could be your family. It could be your friends. It could be your purpose, your job, whatever. For Aaron Marino right now, what makes a life worth living?
For me, it's about family, and it's about being around people I love. That's something that I think really the last year and a half has kind of sort of exemplified. I didn't realize how much I loved hugging my mom or just being around, people that I care about. It's, we are not supposed to be isolated. We as creatures, we are supposed to be around other creatures. We are social animals. And that was the thing that really kind of, stuck out was, man, I just can't wait to be around people that I love and just hang out and just talk to them and just be in their presence. And so for me, it's just about being around people that I love, and that makes me feel fulfilled. It makes me feel happy, and it definitely fills my soul with joy. And so it's not money, it's not, it's not fame. It's just being around people I love.
So for anyone listening, watching right now, any of our audience that aren't already following you and your content, where can they find more from yourself?
Alpha M on YouTube. Just search it, and you will find more than you need of me. And bear with me as I work through my own issues with content and and figuring it out. It's a hard grind, but I started going down the rabbit hole this past year, just really like focusing on clickbaity, like thumbnails and titles, and I'm trying to pull it back a bit and get back to basics and create content that I'm proud of, and so I'm working through it. So bear with me, but yeah, YouTube Alpha M, you'll find me there.
I love it, man. And yeah, man, thanks for coming on. And a personal thank you. Your content helped me a lot when I was a younger guy struggling to find his way. So I thank you for that as well.
Lewis, you're a rock star, man. Congratulations and thank you.